Hi guys, I'm EVM and welcome back. Now usually when I do a car review, when someone gives me a car, it rains. When I go down south, it carries on raining it seems. So yeah, I'm afraid you're going to have to put up with wind noise, rain, all the usual stuff. I'm going to have to practically shout to get over this, but this is the only time I have with the car to film it, so let's see how it goes. Right, well this is the Renault Captur, the plug-in hybrid version. And yes, before anybody says anything, plug-in hybrids are still relevant today. Not everybody can get a full electric car. This though is a big one because that is, or rather its predecessor, is Renault's biggest seller. I personally don't get crossovers, but what do I know? Everybody's buying that over the Clio and other things, so clearly that's what people want. So in terms of mass market appeal, does this plug-in hybrid version of the Captur make any sense at all? Because it does cost over £30,000. Right, well let's start by looking around it in this lovely blustery weather. It's definitely got the Renault face, hasn't it? It's got the big bulbous front end. You got this kind of honeycomb sort of grille there. These C-shaped LED lights, I do quite like them. Big Renault badge, and it's got lots of kind of bonnet creases and bulges, and it looks interesting, I think. You've got these kind of air vents at the bottom that, well, they're fake, they don't actually go anywhere, but they do look quite effective. Give it a sporty-ish look. You may notice this is a left-hand drive model because it's not out in the UK until the end of the year, so look out for that one. And if we go around the side, again we've got a lot of detailing. Obviously this is a high-spec version. Let me just wipe the camera for a second. Sorry, the perils of doing it in the rain. So yeah, we have lots of little details that are quite nice, like this here. You got the plastic bit around the bottom to give it kind of like that chunky effect. I'm not a big fan of plastic along the bottom of cars, but a lot of people it seems are. This is a petrol flap. You don't often see them on the channel, but yes, of course, it's a hybrid, so you do need to put it up with some go juice every now and then. Now, from the back, we have, of course, the E-Tech badge that tells you it's a hybrid. You've got these kind of almost fake-ish look exhaust silver highlights, I suppose. I'm guessing that's what they're designed for. Again, that's plastic, but it gives it a bit of presence, I suppose. C-shaped lights, LED lights at the rear again. A massive, massive badge with Captur, just in case anybody doesn't know what it looks like, because it does kind of have that Euro box look to it. It does look like a lot of other cars that are around at the moment. So yeah, it is a bit of a Euro box in my estimation. You wouldn't really spot the difference between this and say the Nissan equivalent or something like that, or the Peugeot equivalents, unless you knew your cars really. So let's have a look at the boot, because it is a compact family vehicle. So let's have a look. It is oh, it's a bit dirty under here because it's next to the number plate, so that's not brilliant, but I can forgive it. Right, so this is a flat loading bay, as you can see there, so that's good for loading stuff up. It's not massive, if I'm honest, and if you look under here, you've only got a tiny bit of space for your cables. So compared to the normal Captur, which would have a deeper boot, so you could either take that false floor out or put stuff underneath it, this has a smaller boot, and that does limit its practicality and appeal a little bit, I'm afraid. So yeah, I'll talk about that more once I get inside, because it is throwing it down, as I said. But overall, I'd say as far as compact SUVs, crossovers, whatever you want to call them, it does look quite nice. It's got a bit of, nice details along here. You'll have various colours along the body and, I believe, along the top. Now, one thing that I am going to point out, actually, which I do like, is that this bit here covers all of the rear exits, or entrance, rather. So if I just open that for a second. So all this bit here that usually gets your trousers and your kids' trousers anyway, dirty, is covered up by that. So it's never going to get dirty. So getting in and out of the back is, it's a nice touch, basically. They've actually thought about it, and I like cars with little touches, certainly for family environments. If I just open that door, it's nice and wide, easy to get into, so you can just see it there. I'll show you around the interior in a second. You'll probably recognise half of the interior if you've seen the Renault Zoe video. So yeah, it's got that kind of chunky look. It's a chunky car. Oh my God. You wouldn't think it was the middle of August, would you? But yeah, welcome to England. Right, okay, so steering wheel. That feels quite nice, feels chunky, it's familiar. As I said, you've got all these buttons here. Couple of blanked out buttons there, which I find a bit strange in a modern vehicle these days. Very similar, of course, to the Renault Zoe. And if I look over there, you can see the big touch interface. It's very easy to use. I always say that's the mark of a good touch interface in a car, that you don't need to read the manual to figure out where and how to use it. You can just use it by, well, pressing it and, you know, and playing with it, basically. So that's a good start. However, it does have that kind of plonked on affair. It does look like it's stuck there. The way that these vents kind of go behind, it does look like almost an afterthought. You've got some buttons up here, various features like lane assist and opening the fuel cap. I won't go through all the buttons, that's what a brochure's for. Standard Renault switchgear, solid enough. Obviously this is you know, one of the higher spec ones, so you get some nice trims here. That's nice and soft. That's kind of soft hard wearing material, so that's pretty good. Same round here, you can sort of see me indent it there. So yeah, it's nice material so far. Lots more buttons. I do prefer buttons, so it's not all operated from the touch interface. Again, blanked out buttons, which is a bit strange. What modern cars have blanked out buttons these days? It's very, very unusual. Let me just turn the motor on for you a second there, so you can see this, the really nice and clear dash binnacle, or rather when the reflection isn't ruining it for the camera. So let me get it in an angle that you can see it. There you go. Yeah, this is again very similar to the Zoe, and it does look really effective even from afar. At night it is really cool, and it's just easy to see. I think that's the main thing. That's what it's designed to do. So yeah, I do like a digital display. I really do like that. As we go along here, more nice kind of material. It's I don't know what you call that, to be honest. It's almost like a wrap, but yeah, it's nice and soft. It feels good. Black gloss, of course, which is just going to attract fingerprints, but again, it looks good in a brochure. And these feel solid. Doesn't look like, you know, or sorry, rather, it doesn't feel like they're going to fall off anytime soon, or they're too loose or anything like that. So yeah, build quality, I would say, is pretty good. Now you have storage here for phones and various other things with 2 USB ports, auxiliary input, and of course the 12-volt socket there. This is the key that Renault pretty much have across their range. Not the nicest, if I'm honest, but at least you have physical controls for the climate control. You can just adjust it very simply just by moving them around like that. So yeah, I do want physical control still in cars. I don't want to do the Tesla thing where it's all controlled by the touch interface. If you just pull out a second there, you have the gear lever. So you've got reverse, neutral, drive and B mode. So you can increase the regen, even though it is a plug-in hybrid. It's not a full EV, of course. Automatic handbrake, as you would expect from modern cars these days, although I do kind of miss that. A proper handbrake. Down here, you've got a wireless charging pad for your phone. So that's nice and handy, even though it's a little bit out of the way. I guess it doesn't matter, because you shouldn't use it when you're driving, should you? You've got a little bit of a kind of gap here for the Renault key. Handbrake, as I said, you've got a couple of cup holders, and this armrest that moves backwards and forwards, and it also doubles up, if I can figure out how to open the damn thing. Ah, there we go, there's a button underneath. It also doubles up as a comically small but deep storage container. So yeah, that's a bit strange. Let me see if I can get an idea of size. Yeah, so I guess you could get a few things in there. Let's have a look at the glove box now. Ooh, hey, check that out. I like that. It's like a sliding tray rather than a glove box. That's very deep, very deep. That's pretty big. Yeah, that's good. That's the best glove box I've seen for a long time. Not a bold statement, but yeah, it is nice. So yeah, overall, I don't know if you can quite see it there. There's an LED kind of light, like kind of low glow lights. You can see it on my side a bit more. So at night time, very effective. Overall, it's a nice place to be, is this? It's a grown-up Clio, and as I say, you'll probably see a lot of familiar things if you saw the Renault Zoe video. Up top, we have obviously various controls for, look, a sunroof. You don't often see sunroofs in cars these days. reading lights and whatnot, and of course the usual stuff that you'd find in a car. So yeah, it's spacious up here. I do like this kind of floating centre console affair. This feels really nice to use. The seats, comfortable. They've got this kind of hard-wearing fabric with a bit of leatherette, I guess it won't be real leather, going around the edges. Obviously, different spec may have different seats, so bear that in mind. But yeah, this is comfortable, it's nice and wide, sporty, but not, it doesn't hug you. I do like huggy seats, sporty seats, so we'll just see what it's like after a bit of driving. Other than that, though, it is comfortable. You can get in, it's at a good height. So as I said, this is in a position for someone who's about 6 foot, is this seat. And yeah, there's actually a bit of room here. You can't spread your legs because of the rails that the seat's on. So if you got your legs like that, and if you're doing the man spread sort of thing, you can't put them any further forward. You have to kind of tuck them in. So yeah, you're going to get adults in either side. The middle's a bit of a stretch, if I'm honest. I would say children only. But you would get 4 adults in the car. Probably don't want to do a really long journey, but it would be possible. Again, not the tallest person in the world. Reasonable one, although when you do that, your head's quite close to the pillar. So certainly if you have 3 in, you're going to end up going bang, bang when you go around a roundabout. And when you get out, I have caught my head a bit. Whoa! I'm going to close that because the wind is so strong. Bloody hell, that caught me by surprise. A few more things in the back. We have a couple of USB ports, a 12-volt adapter, and of course a vent, so the kids are taken care of. So if you do a long journey in this, with at least a couple of kids anyway, then they can keep their iPad charged for the entire time, which is good for parents on long journeys. So yeah, the inside so far, I would say, is it's actually quite nice. It definitely feels nicer and a step up over the Zoe. So let's take it for a drive and see what it's like on the road. Even though it is on the wrong side is the steering wheel, it should be over there. Okay, there's a massive cow blocking my path. Get out of my way! Right, I'm going to use my phone for the specs just to make it easier because it's all digital now and the way lockdown dictates these events have to happen. So yeah, this is a 1.6 litre petrol engine and a 9.8 kilowatt hour lithium-ion battery, which gives you up to, apparently, 30 miles of range. Now, I would usually say that if they say 30 miles, it's usually going to be between 20 and 25, depending on time of year, how you drive, obviously, that makes it a huge difference. But in my experience, if you drive economically, you can usually get, in fact, I've always managed to get what the manufacturers say you should, out of anything electric anyway. If you say around 20-ish, I think then you'll be in the good ballpark. Obviously, if you drive it like a lunatic, it's going to be less. If you drive it economically, it's going to be more. 160 horsepower, so that's borderline warm hatch territory, I suppose. 144 newton meters of engine torque plus 205 from the electric motor, so that's 350 newton meters of torque, which that's a torquey engine. So I don't think you're going to be lacking for performance. There are a couple of models, or at least at launch anyway, and they start at £30,500. Now, before I mention the price and why and where and all that sort of stuff, the one problem I have with that is that it's only a few £100 off the Megane plug-in hybrid, which will be coming in the channel in a few weeks. That's a lot, yes, it is a lot. And I have to say that that's going to put a lot of people off, especially considering that it's probably, what, £8,000–9,000 more than the entry-level Captur. It's going to be a tough sell, I think, for Renault. Yes, of course, you're going to get close to, roughly around 200 miles per gallon in terms of your fuel. But even if you did 30,000 miles a year, you're looking at, that's about £1,500 saving a year in fuel. And that's if you did 30,000 miles a year. Most people would do that over the 3 years that you typically own the car. So the fuel savings aren't going to come close to offsetting the extra expense of the PHEV in the Captur range. The total cost of ownership, and this is something I mention with EVs a lot, the total cost of ownership is all that ultimately matters. Yes, you need more for the, like a bigger deposit, you need probably bigger monthly payments. There's the affordability problem. But the depreciation of PHEVs, no matter what they are, is always a lot less than the petrol or even diesel equivalents. So this should lose its value at a much slower rate, quite a lot slower actually, than like I said, its petrol counterparts. So I think that the total cost of ownership will be about the same between this and the petrol, possibly less. Of course, if you're suddenly getting to inner city, congestion charges and things like that, it could really end up paying for itself. So there are other factors there which make this financially viable. And then of course that leads us to another issue, which is in the Renault range. You can buy a Renault Zoe with CCS charging for less than this. The inside is nicer. I would say it's just better than the Zoe, but then I would probably go for the Zoe over this because I would save money on the car, I would save money on the running costs. But of course, not everybody, as I said at the beginning, can own a full electric vehicle. However, if you can get a plug-in hybrid and charge it, logically, you can get a full electric car and charge it as well. So that is why I think the Renault Zoe is ultimately a reason why you wouldn't go for this. Still feels very strange being in a left-hand drive car in the UK. Right, let's see what this is like when you put your foot down. 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. That's kilometres per hour, by the way. Remember, it's a French car, so it's not in miles per hour. Don't get too excited. So it's all right. I have to say, the engine, when you're going at speed, cuts in pretty seamlessly. You don't notice it. There's no jerking action. So I don't think anybody's going to have any performance issues, but you're not going to have any big smiley faces either on the country road. But, and I mean this in the nicest way, I believe that a typical Renault Captur buyer will be someone who doesn't really class cars as an interest. They're not into their cars, they're not a car fanatic like myself. They just want a car that works, takes them to work and back. The sort of person that if you said, what car does your neighbour own? They would say, a blue one. Like my wife, who treats the car like a tool, a way of getting from A to B. If you're the sort of person that spends tens of thousands of pounds on a car and then £3 or £4 taking it to the car wash to get it washed, I think this is the car for you. Either way, you get my point. It's a car for the masses, not a car for the enthusiast. So, if I put that head on, if I think of it as the car for my mum and dad, my wife, for example, if I brought this home and said, this is our new car, I think she'd be happy with it. I think she'd like it. It's comfortable, it's easy to drive, good visibility. Corners are a bit of a blind spot, but you've got loads of cameras, so that's not a problem. There's a bit of wind noise, but it's quiet. You know what? Every modern car is pretty much the same, isn't it, in terms of refinement. You just don't get a noisy car or an annoying car anymore. They just don't exist. You get average cars and good cars and very good cars. You certainly don't really get bad ones anymore. It does lean a bit. Let's give it some corners. Yeah, the handling is what you would expect. Oh, then the engine's getting noisy now. It does get a little bit uneasy when you're over, like them undulations or twisty bumps. If you go around the corner and hit a bump, it does kind of get a little bit upset, but not in a dangerous way, anything like that. It's not going to kill you. Sound weird because you go from silence of EV running to noise and then no noise. It's really strange. It does lean. It does lean a bit. Renault know their market. They know who this is aimed at, and I think they do very well at that. That's why this is their biggest seller. Now, just to back up the claim that I believe Renault know their audience and who this is marketed at very well, if you press that button there, let me switch cameras. If you press this button here, this camera comes up, and if you press that, it basically gives you a view down the side of the car. Now remember, this is a left-hand drive car, so normally it would be on the other side for us, but it basically means that you can tell when you're about to curb your alloy. So like I say, Renault know their market. Now, the miles per gallon close to 200 miles per gallon that Renault say that you're going to get out of this thing. That is something that is achievable. What you have to do in terms of a plug-in hybrid anyway is use the electric properly. And this is the thing that people fall down on. They don't arrive home with effectively an empty battery, which is the whole point of a plug-in hybrid, of anything electric. If you get home and there's still 10-15 miles of range on the car, you've wasted petrol. Let's imagine you're 15 miles from home and you've got 15 miles of range on the car. Put it into full EV mode. Then you're not burning any petrol. If you don't quite get home, it doesn't matter because the petrol engine will fill in the last bit, but ultimately you're utilising all that electricity, all that cheap electricity. So yeah, I reckon you can get 100 and odd, even 200 miles per gallon if you just used it sensibly. Hell, I even know people that have plug-in hybrids, and even though they have a plug at home, they don't plug it in. Why would you get a plug-in hybrid if you don't plug it in? Now the boot that I showed you earlier, that is 379 litres, but on the normal Captur it's 526. So that's what you're losing because of the batteries. So that could be a little bit of a sticking point for some people. To put it into context, it's a fraction bigger in terms of litres anyway than the Renault Zoe boot. It's losing a bit of that practicality that you would get a car like this for, isn't it? You know, that compact SUV crossover, it's a bit more interior space, a bit bigger boot, but you're losing that with a PHEV. So again, they're giving with one hand and taking with another. The boot is probably big enough for most people. You're not going to be going camping in it, if I'm honest. You're not going to be doing an IKEA shop or anything like that without folding the seats down in. Even then, it's going to be tight. So maybe this is the perfect partner car or second car in the household. But then if you're getting a second car, you'd probably get a full electric one. It's a real tough one. I'm struggling to put this in the right sector. The city centre thing, the congestion charge, all that sort of stuff, I guess there's an argument for that. There will be cost savings there. And I reckon in the next year or two, certainly, more city centres will be potentially banning anything that can't run on full electric. The warranty on this is 5 years, 100,000 miles, or 2-year unlimited mileage, depending on which one comes first, of course. And you get 8 years on the battery as well, 100,000 miles. So that's pretty much standard across the range, and that's a pretty good warranty. It's not quite as good as the Kias, but it's better than others. Thanks for watching, guys. Any questions, then again, use the comments below. Let me know what you think. Apologies for the rushed video, but again, that's the very nature of this sort of event, and I'll see you soon.